The regular meeting of Helotes City Council, it's May 11th, 2023. The time is 7 p.m. At this point, we're going to call Commander Gray to come up and give the invocation, followed by the Pledge of Allegiance. Please rise.
Everyone, please uncover. Lord, now that the stress of elections are over, we thank you for our mayor, the city council, and the leaders at every level of our city. Give them the grace to bring truth, justice, and stability to our region. Give them power to do what is right and to rule in fairness. May our community be known for its justice. Amen.
Amen.
I pledge
allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Honor the Texas flag. I pledge allegiance to thee,
Texas, one state, under God, one and indivisible.
Sit that there. At this point, I would like to call up our Public Works delegation, proclamation. Especially joyous occasion because after every sad event comes a positive event. As many of you know, Josh Mayer had moved for greener pastures, as they say, but I gave a great opportunity to take a look at the talent we have had in our department growing. And just this past week, Corey was promoted to Director of Public Works, and Justin is now our operations supervisor. Job well-deserved promotions, and we appreciate them. Let's give them a hand. This is our National Public Works Week of 2023. We're thankful to Public Works, and we're giving a proclamation today to our Public Works Department. Whereas Public Works professionals focus on infrastructure, facilities, and services that are of vital importance to sustainable and resilient communities and to the public health, high quality of life, well-being of the people of Helotes. And whereas these infrastructures, facilities, and services cannot be provided without the dedicated efforts of Public Works professionals who are responsible for rebuilding, improving, and protecting our transportation, water supply, solid waste systems, public buildings, and other structures and facilities essential for our citizens. And whereas it is the public interest for citizens of Helotes to gain knowledge of and to maintain a progressive interest in understanding the importance of public works programs in respective communities. Whereas today we recognize the work ethic and efficiencies of our qualified and dedicated Public Works Director, Corey Gould, Operations Supervisor Justin Vincent, crew leaders Miguel Cruz and Valerio Deli Grigio, and crew members Christian Garza, Jonathan Clausen, Morgan Kuntz, Raymond Browse, and Marco Bondo, who reflect the highest standards of professionalism while striving to improve our city services and quality of life for our citizens. Therefore, I, Rich Whiteman, on behalf of the members of City Council, by the virtue, the authority vested in me as mayor of the city of Helotes, Texas, to proclaim the week of May 21 to 27, 2023 as Public Works Week, to recognize and commend our public works employees for their service to our community.
Mayor in the middle and then squeeze it.
All right. You're up on this way.
Yeah. Aw, no. I'll cut you off. I'm gonna just move this over just a little. On three. 1, 2, 3. Got it. Thank you.
Appreciate y'all. Take care.
Congratulations.
And we also have National EMS Week, and so we'd like to recognize our EMS providers. Some phenomenal crew members in our EMS division. all of our firefighters are at least intermediate, are they not? That's some basics, okay. Quite a few. Paramedics, intermediate, basic. But this is National EMS Week 2023. And we are given an official proclamation to recognize our Helotes EMS. Whereas emergency medical services is a vital public service, and the members of our emergency medical services teams are ready to provide life-saving care to those that need 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, 365 days a year. And whereas access to quality emergency care dramatically improves the survival and recovery rate of those who experience sudden illness or injury. Whereas the emergency medical services system consists of first responders, emergency medical technicians, paramedics, emergency medical dispatchers, firefighters, police officers, educators, administrators, pre-hospital nurses, emergency physicians, trained members of the public, and other out-of-hospital medical care providers. Whereas it is appropriate to recognize our highly trained emergency medical services team members, Captain EMT Jack Wood, Captain Paramedic Garrett Daughtry, Captain and Paramedic A.J. Freiberg, Engineer and Paramedic Larry Hewitt, Engineer EMT Advanced Sam Richards, Engineer Paramedic Derek Smith, Firefighter Paramedics Corey Ramon, Rich Fryer, Colin Campbell, Joshua Smith, Brian Rogers, and Firefighter EMTs Luke Rose, Marcus Mendoza, and Roy Hernandez. Therefore, I, Rich Whiteman, on behalf of the members of the City Council, by the virtue of the authority vested in me as mayor of the city of Helotes, Texas, do hereby proclaim the week of May 21st to 27th, 2023 as National Emergency Medical Services Week in the city of Helotes, and commend and recognize our EMS personnel for the dedicated service to our community. One more student. All right.
Squeeze in.
Squeeze in a little.
Yes. On three. 1, 2, 3. I'm gonna take another one. Can you scoot, because you're blocking this. Okay, there we go. Okay, on 3. 1, 2, 3. Got it. Thank you, guys.
For obvious reasons, Sam, I usually stand next to you. Thank you, guys. And so concludes the fun part of being mayor. Okay. At this point, we're going to move to open session on citizens to be heard. Each person has 3 minutes to be able to share their thoughts. Council cannot respond or engage in discussion except for the giving of specific facts. At this point, we'll call our first citizen that signed up, which would be Stuart Birnbaum. You just state your name and address for the record.
Thank you. Here to, so my name is Stuart Birnbaum, live at 9879 Cache Mountain Road in Helotes. Before beginning, I want to thank everyone. I want to thank all of these people for keeping our city as nice as it is. And I want to thank the council for doing what is often, too often, a thankless job, and congratulate the mayor on his re-election. I'm here to talk to item 9 about the proposed wastewater treatment facility at the Guajolote Ranch development. When this is fully built out, it is designed to release 1 million gallons a day on average into the headwaters of Helotes Creek, and 2-hour peaks not to exceed 4 million gallons. So that sounds a little hard to wrap your head around. So I want to kind of equate that to something we could deal with. First, a little bit about me. I am an emeritus professor in geological sciences at UTSA. And I am also the board member for District 1 of the Trinity Glen Rose Groundwater Conservation District, and District 1 is the city of Helotes. The facility is in District 2, which is the board member is Joe Duminal, got to pronounce it right. So 1 million gallons, according to the United States Geological Survey, 1 inch of rain over 1 acre is 27,165 gallons. If you divide 1 million by that, it means that over 1 acre, you're talking about 36.8 inches of rain every single day of effluent running into the creek. Now, the treatment facility cleans it to the required standards of the state and the EPA, but those standards are not adequate. It does not take care of pharmaceuticals, hormone disruptors, pesticides, insecticides, all of which will end up in the creek, passing through Helotes on its way to recharge not only the Trinity Aquifer, but the Edwards Aquifer. Another point is that these facilities, these wastewater treatment facilities, are inherently designed to not to fail, but they do fail. I think there are 9 wastewater treatment facilities in Bexar County. 6 of them have failed. One of them continuously for over 1,000 days, another one for over 500 days.
So
That's my time,
sorry, my
Nope,
city
that's fine.
secretary.
but I'm available to answer any questions.
We won't comment, but fortunately, your item and apparently everybody's is related to item number 9. So I suggest maybe sticking around and listen to the discussion on item number 9 and hear some more commentary. At this point, Annette Burbon.
Hello, and I echo my husband's thanks for all the work that you guys do. My name is Annette Birnbaum. I live at 9879 Cache Mountain Road in Helotes. I'm here tonight to request that the City Council pass a resolution in opposition of the wastewater treatment facility as proposed at the Wahalote Ranch development. I've lived in Helotes for 36 years, and I regularly walk my dogs in Old Town. I've taken advantage of the investments that the city has made over the years. I recall before the installation of the sewer system in Old Town that there'd often be a very unpleasant aroma from the broken septic systems. One of my concerns is that if the wastewater treatment plant at Wahalote Ranch is operational but fails, we could find ourselves living with the potential of an open sewer running down Helotes Creek. Consider the effects on the businesses and the citizens of Helotes who frequent those facilities, which were all developed, or most of them, after the sewer system went in. I'm pretty sure the revenue from the taxes that Helotes collects from the crowds of people enjoying a drink under the oak trees, or getting married, or enjoying a pastry and a coffee would fall away, not to mention the hundreds who come on market day each month. Would this revenue continue when or if the creek becomes an open sewer, even if it's only until the problem is fixed? The results would be terrible, and I doubt that the people would keep coming. Why would people come and take their graduation or holiday pictures on the pedestrian bridge overrunning an open sewer? Would top-ranked music professionals still come and play in Helotes? There are residents of Helotes who live on Antonio Drive or in those beautiful new apartments that look over the creek. What would happen to them and their property values? Oh, and don't forget Helotes Elementary School and the Catholic Church, both of which are in very close proximity to the creek. Please do what you can to protect Helotes. The creek is one of our natural features that helps make Helotes one of the top small cities in the state to live in. Let's keep it that way. The Wahalote Ranch development is a bad idea, and I urge you to do all that you can to oppose it. The resolution against the water treatment plant would be a start. Thank you.
Thank you very much. And I'm having a total time. Is this Emmon Blake or Bone?
Emery Bloom.
Bloom. Okay. My apologies.
No problem. My name is Emery Bloom. I live at 16237 Scenic Loop Road in Helotes, CTJ. I am the president of Scenic Loop Helotes Creek Alliance, a neighborhood that comprises the residents between Highway 16 and Babcock Road along Scenic Loop, and Gray Forest is in the middle of our neighborhood. I don't come here very often. We enjoy our peace and quiet in our little neighborhood. The reason I'm here tonight to cover both things. One, I'd like to thank Councilwoman Mayor Pro Tem Massey for her words the other night at the TCQ meeting. And I do request that anything Helotes can do to oppose this development would be greatly appreciated by the neighborhood Scenic Loop Helotes Creek Alliance and the residents in that area. There's a couple of things that you should know. The city of San Antonio had an 8-cent sales tax to support EAPP, the Edwards Aquifer Protection Program. Within 5-mile radius of this proposed development, the EAPP spent $47 million to protect 5,000 acres, just within a 5-mile radius of this proposed project. A lot of the property that they protected was along the Helotes Creek between where this development is proposed and Highway 16. They were protected by conservation overlays or outright fee purchases. Another thing is this development is 5 miles from Highway 16, 5.5 miles from I-10, and 6 miles from 1604. There is no reason you should put a 3,000 home neighborhood that far away from major arterial. It completely violates Uniform Development Code for placement of neighborhoods of that size. There's 1 lane each way roads from that far from major arterial roadways for this neighborhood. There's several different reasons I don't have time to go into tonight, but I did want to thank Mayor Pro Tem Massey, and I do hope that you guys will support a resolution against this effort. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Bloom, and for all your work in your organization. And finally, Ms. Lisa Pack.
Hi, my name is Lisa Mary's Pack. I live at 15760 Scenic Loop Road, which is at the very edge of Helotes. We are the northernmost property on Helotes as you go towards Gray Forest. We have about 1/2 mile of the creek on our property. My family has been out here for over 150 years. My parents have owned that property since '63, and I've lived there most of my life. The Wahalote Ranch development is in a sensitive area for water, the quality of water that goes into our aquifer. It isn't a matter of my creek, my water. It's a matter of San Antonio's creek or San Antonio's water, the aquifer. As Emery pointed out, there are easements. I have one. They granted it because of the unique features and the fact that half of the water that enters our property goes underground by the time the creek leaves our property.
Mhm.
So our property has a significant contribution to that. This is a disaster waiting to happen. And it's not just our disaster, because the trickle down is, we already know about the flooding in Helotes along the creek. It's inevitable, it happens. But if we're putting that much volume down it, we're just aggravating whatever flooding we're going to get. And we're definitely taking the risk of ruining the aquifer, which cannot be restored overnight. You can't fix it once the effluent goes in there if it's not at standard. This is supposed to be a self-reporting plant, no oversight, nobody looking at it. If it fails, nobody will know unless people downstream are taking samples. So it could be days before anybody catches the fact that the water quality is not what it should be. That's one of the major concerns that I have. Why are we allowing this high density development to happen in an area that was considered very sensitive by the North Sector Plan? And it was supposed to only have at minimum 1/4 acre lots. The recommended lot size is 2 to 5 acres. Well, Helotes' proposed density is 4 to 6 houses per acre. That is, and what we've talked about with water doesn't include stormwater drainage, does not include what runs off the driveways, does not include what people are putting on their lawns or any other type of treatment they do that could impact water quality. So I would hope that y'all do support the resolution.
Thank you very much. Appreciate it. Again, I encourage you all to stick around for item number 9 as we'll be discussing this as it is posted on our agenda. At this point, I'm looking for a motion, a second, to approve consent agenda items number 5 through 7, unless there's something somebody wants to pull.
Mr. Mayor, I move we approve consent agenda items 2 and 3 as written.
5 and 7.
5 through 7.
5 through 7.
5 through 7.
5 through 7.
Sorry, okay. Motion by Sanders, second by
Second.
Stones. Okay. No discussion is required. So all in favor of approving items number 5 through 7, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries. At this point, we're going to do a mayor's report, give a few updates. We have a wrap up of our 56th annual Carnival Parade. It was a fantastic event, a beautiful parade, and we avoided all the rain and tragedies that we were well prepared for with the traffic and construction on Bandera Road. Shout out to TxDOT for amidst all of their construction. They did a lot of work to help repair the southbound lanes to be able to be at least adequate for holding our pedestrians and observers. The rodeo was phenomenal. Great turnout there. And again, we avoided rain. Good times had by all. Amazing concerts. Just really a tremendous opportunity to celebrate and highlight our city. We do want to acknowledge that I want you to save this date. We've been talking about it for a while. We've been getting phone calls and emails. We talked about, and we now have hazardous waste disposal. It will happen here, right here outside of City Hall. The date will be June 17th. June 17th. And we will post that all over. We have time on that?
8 to 12.
8 to 12, and that is Saturday, correct? It is Saturday, June 17th from 8 to 12. We will post this on at least 6 different social media platforms, and we will get the word out. Please feel free to pass that word out on social media as well. Finally, I'm going to do a point of interest. It's not listed. This is not city business, but it is pertinent. We have an update. I'm going to call Chief Moreland up. Chief has been sitting in on our TxDOT meetings, Zoom meetings with the chief engineers, and we have a little update on what's going on in the construction. And just historically, there had been some updates to hopefully move this thing up to finish at the end of the year, 6 or 7 months ahead of time. We did have some recent setbacks due to limestone and asbestos, apparently. So if you can just give us some update of what happened in this latest meeting was today, correct?
Yes.
Yes. Okay.
Mayor and council, actually, I've got some items that just developed today. One of them obviously being the TxDOT project out here. We are 257 days from the end of April to the end of the project. That puts it somewhere, weather permitting, in the first week of May of 24. for completion. There were some setbacks. There was some discussion today that actually last week, and then today something else came up. Last week, there was some discussion about some issues with the amount and thickness of the limestone that the TxDOT is having to cut through down in the Bandera Road and Leslie Road intersection off that corner there. If you'll notice, there's been a kind of a trench dug out there for a couple of weeks now. They're having to use a pretty large piece of equipment out there to break up all that limestone in there. So it's taken them a little time to do that. I think from what I gather, that these are things that are already planned. I shouldn't say planned for, but they have contingency for, that it doesn't really affect the completion date. The other thing that came up here just recently and was mentioned today was that there are some old asbestos pipes down in that same area that they have to remediate and remove. Fortunately, TxDOT has their own remediation team and they're already on it. So we're not going to have to wait, a month for a team to come out and do a survey and all this business. They're already on it. They're already starting. Well, they should be starting the removal process shortly. So hopefully we're going to stay on track. There was quite a bit of discussion this morning about the weather coming in this weekend and how that might affect the project. And I was assured that they have made some contingency plans to deal with the weather where it won't affect, or at least significantly affect, their day-to-day operations. Fortunately, most of the rain's going to come over the weekend. Maybe they'll get a little dry out by Monday or Tuesday and be right back to work without any real effect. Second item that I wanted to mention, if I may, Mayor, just in the last 24 hours, many of you know that we've been trying to get our communication system up to what is now a federal standard, P25 compliance. The dispatch consoles were installed, programmed, and put in use Monday and Tuesday of this week. All of the portable radios, police, fire, public works, court, all of the radios were programmed and put online yesterday. And all of the mobile units in all of the police cars, fire trucks, you guys don't have any in public works, right? But all of the mobile radios were programmed today. So we are 100% online with 28 towers of power now, as opposed to the 12 that we had before. We're being assured by the county folks that there shouldn't be anywhere in our response area, anywhere in Bexar County where we can't talk to somebody. So I think they have 29,000 spots throughout the county. And they're grid spots. They're 95% compliant for radio coverage. So it's really good. So we're real excited about that. And I gotta give props to Jamie Ostrander. She spearheaded this thing for the last 6 months because frankly, I ran out of gas. But we're good to go.
All right. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Appreciate it, Chief. Okay, at this point, we're going to move to item number 9, discussion of and information on the TCEQ public meeting held on May 9th. This does not require a motion. There's no action being taken tonight. This will be a discussion. Give a slight little bit of background. There are certain things that are not under our jurisdiction, if you will. However, we are affected by, and therefore we have a right to be able to assimilate information and make a determination if we can make some sort of action. That's what we want to gear the discussion. We're going to have Councilmember Massey give her notes from the meeting. I think we had Councilmember Stones at that meeting as well too. And the idea here is it's my desire. I'm just going to put it out as to come up with a action by the city of Helotes. Personally, I'd like to speak against this because I do think that, particularly from the information that she's going to share, the fail rates that they experience make this an unacceptable. It's one thing to have something that is completely comes drinking water out the other side, and there are treatment plants that do that, and there are viable, it's a viable technology that's out there. And then there are users of this technology and their track record. And I think what we're going to find out is that we have a terrible track record in the company that's up there, and that makes it very important for us to listen carefully to what council member has to say And then we'll have some discussion about it, and we'll list some options of what we can do. And based upon your direction, we'll come back next council meeting with whatever it is y'all decided to ask for us to do. Councilor.
I do want to make a correction on what you just said, and I know that you're taking it from the phone call that I made. There is a significant failure rate of municipal sewage plants. This particular company, and I didn't do a lot of the research, they were asked about that, and they have about 78 facilities. I'm not sure if it's all over the country or in Texas. And they were asked what the failure rate, if they had any issues, and he said just with one. Okay, so this was the company, this LLC saying that. So again, I couldn't find the information online. I'm not sure where it is, but I am going to talk about that. Let me start from the beginning, if you don't mind. I'm not going to read the whole thing, although I do want to kind of go over a summary of the report that I sent to the city council. The meeting was on Tuesday night at the Doubletree Hotel. There was more than 280 people there, and think about it, it was raining that night. This is a very important issue that people wanted to get their opinions out there. There were many individuals who asked questions and commented during the formal and informal and formal parts of the hearing, and the overwhelming public consensus was that the permit should be denied. The city of Gray Forest, represented by Mayor Pro Tem Jerry Paz, presented a resolution opposing the permit. The hearing started at 7 and ended at about 10:30 p.m. The comment part of the permit process ended last night. And a couple of weeks ago, I sent a comment to the TCEQ, which is attached to the report, and you all have that. Basically, I kind of reiterated some of the things that I'm going to mention here. I went there to represent the city of Helotes. We had not made any kind of decision. We had never really talked about it as a city council, but I felt, and I had sent Rich the information about the permit when it first came out. And he's the one who said, let's move forward and see if we can discuss this as a city. But we didn't know a whole lot about it because we're not, as he said, we weren't notified. We're far away from it, supposedly. We didn't have any, they felt like we didn't have any say in the matter. But I beg to differ after hearing everything that I heard last night, and there was a lot. I intended only to listen and then I decided and not make a formal statement, but I did feel compelled to make a formal statement after hearing how the wastewater treatment plant discharge could directly affect the city of Helotes. The facility is located 1.75 miles southwest of the intersection of Babcock Road and Scenic Loop Road. And it will discharge treated domestic wastewater at an annual average flow. It says average, not to exceed 1 million gallons per day. But again, during the meeting, we learned that there are some days on peak hours that it would be up to 4 million. Okay. And according to the permit paperwork, the discharge would be via pipe to Helotes Creek, thence to impounded Helotes Creek, then to Helotes Creek. And again, I'm not even sure what that means. Thence to Culebra Creek, then to Lower Leon segment of the San Antonio River Basin. Okay. So, in as much as our creek is mostly dry in the Helotes area, except for periods of heavy rainfall, it appears that the treated wastewater facility may contribute to a constantly running creek because of the discharge. And Helotes Creek is 14 miles long. Nevertheless, the TCEQ personnel were only required to examine the creek bed up to 2.5 miles from the discharge point to ascertain whether the creek can contain the extra water that will be flowing from the treatment plant. The creek, according to the TCEQ staff member, must have banks and cliffs, a waterway that will channel water so that adjacent homes and properties will not be flooded. Otherwise, a permit cannot be given. In the Helotes Old Town area, which is 6.5 miles from the downspot, along the west side of the bridge on property owned by Tammy Poynton, and along the creek tributary at Antonio Drive, there are no cliffs and banks. The extra running water from the treatment plant coupled with a heavy rainfall will cause severe flooding in these areas. In my statement to the TCEQ, I said that only examining a small portion of the creek near the discharge point was not doing due diligence. If the treated wastewater is going to flow down the length of Helotes Creek, then those properties downstream need to be taken into consideration. I've done some research into that, and they don't seem to care about what happens downstream. And that is a big flaw in the TCEQ regulations. During the question and answer session, TCEQ staff said that they cannot take future flooding onto roads into consideration when making decisions on permits, which made me stop. Apparently everything there is compartmentalized. Actually, you have to go to another department for that. And in fact, at one point they said you should go to FEMA. I'm like, okay, none of this made sense to me. Anyway, so they base their calculations just on what is happening there right now, based on a property that doesn't have anything on it right now, that is all pristine with trees and, you know, and bushes and grass and that kind of thing. But once Lennar Homes scrapes 1,600 acres of trees and foliage from the hills and builds 2,900 homes, Helotes Creek will be deluged with water from that hillside, and flooding in places that have never flooded will become an inevitable outcome. Other compelling reasons that were given that night to deny the permit were the failure rate of municipal sewage plants. In the Hill Country, there are 48 municipal sewage plants that have discharge permits. 81% have exceeded at least one pollutant limit since 2017. The average number of exceedances at all plants was 8.6. All plants averaged 188 days of exceedances. In other words, they're going over the limits that they're supposed to. These are from self-reported data from the plants themselves. So if this is just self-reported, if someone was actually watching and monitoring them, I would imagine it would be a little bit more. This is from, all of this has documentation that I have in my packet. TCEQ also has no enforcement arm. So many of these plants, they might be fined or they might not be fined. And even if they are fined, they don't have anyone to go after them. So a lot of times they don't have to pay the fines. So if you're found out of compliance, it's like, it's no big deal, you know, because you're not going to be fined. There are pollutants in the water, and yes, it is treated, and they've come a long way in the treatment of wastewater. That's true. But there are those pollutants that continue to stay in the water. And even though they're treated, they often exceed the recommended limit. And such pollutants are ammonia, E. coli, pH, phosphorus, chlorine, oxygen depletion, solids, and overflow. And number 4, and this is probably one of the biggest, besides the flooding in Helotes, this is a big one for me, and it's the Helotes Creek watershed is within the contributing and recharge zone of the San Antonio segment of the Edwards Aquifer and includes the city of Gray Forest and part of the city of Helotes. A study by Southwest Research Institute scientists concluded that currently OSSFs, which are basically septic tanks, are the only type of wastewater disposal facility used in the Helotes Creek watershed. And they did some simulations to support the argument that if either a TLAP, which is a Texas Land Application Permit, and that is a permit to throw the wastewater on fields, to irrigate fields. Let's see, to do that, or a TBDES, which is a Texas Pollutant Discharge Elimination System, which is the one we're discussing now. either of those type facilities were to be installed in Helotes Creek watershed, and the cumulative amount of wastewater disposed was substantially increased, the tropic state of Helotes, which is the nice, normal state, would be classified as fully entrophic. I'm sorry I don't know the word, I'm not a scientist, but that means the streams with elevated concentrations of nutrients such as phosphorus and nitrogen are prone to algae growth and may exhibit undesirable qualities, including reduced clarity, foul odor, and bad taste. And that happened in the Blanco River just recently. And in fact, they had to quit pouring effluent in there because of that. But according to the TECQ, Lennar has met all the agency's legal requirements and they see no grounds to block the treatment plant. So, that's basically what's going on. However, they did get a lot of comments and questions, and they were going to be compiled and answered within 60 days. 3 full-time commissioners appointed by the governor established TCEQ agency direction and policy, and they make the final determination on contested permitting and enforcement matters. They are John Neerman, Emily Lindley, and Bobby Janica. And the Greater Edwards Aquifer Alliance has requested a contested hearing. This contested hearing would go before a judge. The judge will either grant the permit or deny it, but ultimately it's the 3 commissioners who are going to have the ultimate decision. That's basically my take on it. I gave you a lot of background information, the council, and I do believe, after everything that I heard, that Helotes will be impacted by this in a negative way. And I would like to propose that we do bring a resolution against the permitting for the next meeting.
So a couple of weeks ago, my daughter at A&M, who is now majoring in molecular cellular biology, thank God I said that right, I can barely pronounce it, she's getting a 4.0 there in that degree. She's taking on a whole lab next year in what's called gram-negative bacteria. What is that? Exactly what she was just talking. Bacteria is going on that cannot even be stopped by antibiotics. You were there as well. Do you have anything else to add?
Well, I mean,
Other
just
insights or notes from your
3.5
position?
hours of information being thrown at you. Councilmember Massey, thank you for taking so much time and doing such a great executive summary. Not an easy task, and I can tell you put a lot of time into it. And that is a huge resource. I guess my question is, can we put this available for public? I know I'd like to put this on my social media, but can we put this on the city page for our residents? I think it's just a great resource on this issue. I went into this probably about, over a month ago, completely neutral on the topic. And as I dug more into it, I've come to the same conclusion before the meeting, but that just further affirmed that this is just a bad idea on so many different levels. Councilmember Massey really went through all the major issues. I don't have a lot to add. I guess the only other thing I would just throw in there is that one of the commenters towards the end made a good point that, again, the TCEQ will say this is not in their jurisdiction, but there's also an issue with clearing all this land and creating stormwater runoff. So we're not just talking about the wastewater being dumped into the creek, but also the actual physical building of the development would also exacerbate this problem. So I guess another concern that I've had from the beginning in researching this is that, and Councilmember Massey already talked about this, is that the wastewater treatment facility would not be managed by a city municipality. It would be managed by the developer. And from an ongoing standpoint of who's managing that, what does the reporting really look like? The TCEQ staff did say, oh, they have to report twice a week, and there are regulations, but I am really hesitant and very, I'll just use the word skeptical of how much oversight this government agency really does in understanding what's really coming out of this septic facility. And finally, Lennar is based in Florida. They're the second largest home builder in the country. And in my short tenure on city council, I've seen developers that are here today and gone tomorrow. And so I'm really concerned that they're going to build this, sell it to someone else, they're gone. And then they have this municipal LLC in charge of it. So Lennar was not even at the meeting. It was this municipal operations LLC that's really handling the whole permit process. So that there's just so many problems with this on so many levels, in my opinion. That's all I have.
Great.
So I'm still digesting all this. I was not at the meeting, and thanks for you guys coming in and giving your 3 minutes. I have been following this as well, and I've actually started putting stuff on my Facebook page as well to let folks inside Helotes, the residents, be aware of it. So I think the awareness is increasing. So I support what and Cynthia, what a great job. Thank you. I'm still going through a lot of the stuff in detail, but there's a lot of good information there. And I was telling Councilmember Massey, I work a lot with, or have had a lot of dealings with Southwest Research Institute on different contracts in my full-time job, and a very well-recognized nonprofit organization that does everything from space to Department of Defense to support environment, all kinds of science fields. And so when they come back with a recommendation and I see their stamp on there, I take a lot, to me, it means a lot. I support what we've already talked about, a resolution. But for me, in my simple little mind, what does the resolution actually state other than it's just our opposition to it? There's really no teeth to it, correct? I mean, we're really just kind of collectively saying the city of Helotes does not support this risky activity behavior, and we feel it has negative impact.
I think,
Helotes.
may I say something just real quickly? I think that we need to get on record because it's going to come back to bite us, but we want to be on the right side of history on this one.
Oh, absolutely.
And we just have to be on record saying whether or not, does it have teeth or not? I think that they know that they have opposition. I mean, they know they have opposition from Gray Forest, but Helotes has not been. Helotes is a little bigger than Gray Forest. It's a little, just a little bigger. But we have a pretty good reputation, and I think that if we step in, and I think this is also very important to say, this is not a conservative or a liberal issue. This is a totally, straightforward quality of life issue for everyone.
Agreed.
And I just think we need to step forward finally and do something and say, we don't want this for our city or for this area. It's not good for the citizens of San Antonio, for goodness sake, for people who drink the water out here.
So no, I agree. I just wanted to understand, obviously we want our stamp of opposition. I just didn't know if there was anything else beyond that.
Well, there is. In and of itself, the resolution has 0 teeth. However, if it moves to a contested hearing, which it is, by having a resolution, that will provide us an opportunity to perhaps, or provides us at least an opening of the door to be able to perhaps have the opportunity to be able to go and speak at and appear at that hearing and speak. And so that would be a direction we give. Here's our resolution and authorizing the mayor to go and speak on, to authorize to speak on our behalf at contested hearing if given the opportunity. And that's where the teeth come in, is at the contested hearing, because those 3 judges or those 3 panel members will be making that decision. And now you have all this information and this city and this city and this city coming in. And I think that's where the teeth come from, is in a formal resolution, is it gives some strength to the contested hearing.
Okay, and I appreciate you explaining that, right? I was not in opposition of not supporting that. I think I said I supported it. I just wanted to hear it explained out, so this potentially gives us a voice at the table.
It will have to file and
We'd have to see,
request
yeah.
and see, but at least it
We
will,
can send letters
it
out.
will
We
be
can
official.
actually.
So the organization that has actually filed the contested hearing is actually.
The greater, what is it, the great? Yeah, they're the ones that are, they're filing for.
So we'll reach out to them.
hearing.
If we do a resolution, we say that, hey, we have a resolution. When you go to your contested hearing, do you want us to?
And we can
appear?
ask, we can do a press release and send it to the media. I mean, public opinion does matter, as we all know.
And there's been a lot released after that meeting on Tuesday as well.
Yeah,
So I have two more things. So Councilmember Massey, you alluded to it when you were describing if we had continuous water going through Helotes Creek in Old Town. There's properties that don't have probably the right kind of banks, right, to deal with water, which is true. And I definitely know Antonio Drive, the slightest thunderstorm and that overflows. Is that also an argument on how this impacts us with just, let's say they disapprove, but if the water is still flowing continuously through Helotes Creek, does that not change all of the analysis our civil engineers do when it comes to wastewater management and the flow and the 100-year floods, like Hacienda or Hacienda mixed use kind of rental townhomes and the businesses underneath that are right there behind Pete's and Wine 101. I remember that one distinctly because that's right up. I think that's pretty close to the creek, as Helotes Creek winds around that part around Old Town. Has any of that assessment been calculated into this? And the second thing is most of that work we outsource through a company that does our civil engineering. Have they had any input, any visibility into any of this? Have we directed them to? I'm just asking.
So generically speaking, if I may say this process, they only go down 2 miles.
yeah.
And the problem is that what's being affected is what's being greatly affected is downstream where you have less cliff walls and it flattens out. But to put it in a little bit of perspective so we can just stick with fact, and I don't think it dilutes our position, but it does put it in fact. 1 million gallons a day works out to 11 gallons a second, which is about roughly 1.5 cubic feet per second. If any of you have floated the river, the Guadalupe River, a recreational slow day is 499, up to 499 cubic feet per second. So this would be 1.5 cubic feet per second, to put it in perspective. When it's running fast, it'd be 600-700 up to 1,000 cubic feet per second. But when it's slow, low and slow, you're between 100 and 400 cubic feet. It's still recreational up to 500 cubic feet per second, which would be 350 times the amount of this. So you're talking billions of gallons of water a day. So in and of itself, the 11 gallons a second, I don't think creates the flooding issue. What it does do is provide constant flow, but it does add to the storm. And then you have to calculate the runoff once they clear 1,600 acres. And here's the problem, you're up in unincorporated Bear County. This is one more problem with development in unincorporated Bear County. The problem we had, Davis Ranch, no building permits, don't worry about traffic, et cetera, this type of deal. Problem we have here is that they can build without having to adhere to stormwater runoff. Every one of our projects, they can't alter the flow, the downstream flow of stormwater. There's no way this is being accounted for. That's the biggest component is going to be the runoff from the rain. That impact is what's going to flood. Right now, one of our top projects, correct me if I'm wrong, Justin, I think it's number 4 on the greater list. We're addressing 2 of them is the flooding that's off on Antonio right now. We have area off of Helotes Creek. We have a lot of properties down there that are very flat and they get flooded out horribly as it is, not to mention with the additional amount of water coming through there. Like I said, I'm not sure if the total amount that we have to worry about is the 1,000,000 gallons. 1,000,000 gallons a day sounds like a lot. It's 11 gallons a second, but still sounds like a lot to 1 cubic feet. So it's just a fraction, but it's what's going to contribute along with it with the clear cut that I think is going to be devastating to especially the homes in Antonio directly inside of Helotes. And then all the potential health problems that we have that have been outlined, and I completely concur.
So the mayor's a numbers guy, which I love the way you presented that. That's helpful to me. In my own way, I just went out and said, what does 1,000,000 gallons of water look like, right? And what Google came back with, it's kind of like, and I think Cynthia kind of said it in her executive summary. It's basically if you want to think about a huge pool that's 267 feet long, 50 feet wide, and 10 feet deep. That's about 1,000,000 gallons. For me, I'm a visual guy, and I can kind of visualize that. Sorry, versus
But
gallons per second.
keep in mind, one thing I learned at the meeting is I thought going into the meeting, it was not to exceed $1 million, a
Yeah.
1,000,000 gallons a day. Then all of a sudden I hear average. So that was a whole new component that was
Yeah.
brought out in the hearing. So that's just an average when everybody's at home on a Saturday afternoon doing laundry and all the,
I didn't realize that until
Go up.
tonight, that it was just the average.
Mhm.
And so anyways, I support. Absolutely support.
Well, I appreciate all the work you did. Thank you for taking time to go to the meeting, you as well, Jen. This was on my radar a few months ago. I was neutral about it. Like we all said, it really didn't impact us immediately. And in our area, I wish I would be on council when the resolution was presented so I could vote in favor of it. This being my last night as I transition back to private sector and focus on my family and business. All I can say is that there will be a specific slant that Helotes News is going to take. I don't want to steal any of council's thunder tonight with the work you presented, but I hope that we can work in conjunction with this topic, and I'll fully support with as many reasonable resources as possible on my end, what I can do. So thank you for all your efforts, and I hope to work with you all on this topic in the future.
Our councilman also came in back, Matt Merchant. Do you have any other comments you want to?
I'll just say thank you both for going. Everything that I read says that I'm vehemently against what's going on.
Perfect.
So I definitely support resolution.
Okay, well, in that case, what we'll do is we'll take this information and we'll put it together and create and draft a resolution. We'll bring it next council meeting for further discussion, edits that want to make and directions or approval with these edits so that we can get that decided upon and brought to you for a vote. And then we'll go from there.
Make a very quick statement.
If you allow,
Sure.
Mayor.
Sure, go ahead.
It has to do with the city not being notified. No one was notified. Gray Forest wasn't notified. The adjacent properties weren't notified. Our attorney at the hearing pointed this out as an illegality, and it's being contested at least on that point.
Yeah, no, I know that they, I think you had brought this up, they looked at where they have to notify in a certain area. So they moved it to another area so they didn't have to notify Gray Forest. And unfortunately that backed up right to
The topper one.
the Topper Wines. So it was gonna be right on their backyard and they didn't notify them. So there is, yeah. Your Topper Wines. Anyways, so there's no action on this at this point, so we'll just take that and staff will work on that. The last thing before we adjourn, we're going to do a point of interest and just recognize Councilmember Matt McCrossin. He is stepping back and will be replaced at the next meeting, but appreciate your 2 years of service. Thank you for sitting on council. You provided some great insights and questions, and Kept us on our toes. I appreciate the work you've done. Thank you for your service. And with that, at the strike of 8 o'clock, we shall adjourn.